WWE CEO Nick Khan says WWE's executive chairman Vince McMahon is not that involved in creative. We got details on a plethora of other comments that the WWE CEO has spoken about heading into WrestleMania this weekend. He's also given an update on Pat McAfee's WrestleMania status. We've got details on if the announcer will be at the showcase of the Immortals this coming weekend. Speaking of WrestleMania, we have the first look at the WrestleMania stage and set ahead of the big event this weekend in SoFi Stadium. Would Edge ever consider a move to All Elite Wrestling? The WWE Hall of Famer was asked that question. We've got details on his response. An update on the final participant in the WWE Hall of Fame this year, as Tim White has been announced as the final inductee with the Warrior Award recipient honor. Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan, an update on their frustration during their WWE feud. LA Knight has spoken about the freedom he's getting in his WWE promos under Triple H. Roman Reigns hits yet another impressive milestone. We've got an update on scrap plans for Brock Lesnar this past Monday night on Raw. And speaking of Raw, we have the ratings for the WrestleMania Go Home episode. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. And let's start off about some interesting comments from WWE CEO Nick Khan. WWE has undergone a major shakeup in the past year, with Vince McMahon retiring from his role in the company and Triple H taking over as the head of creative. Now, McMahon used his power as the primary shareholder in the company to elect himself onto WWE's board of directors back in January, effectively forcing himself back into the organization, in which again he is the majority shareholder of. With a major shakeup taking place twice, WWE CEO Nick Khan recently spoke to the March London Orient Sports podcast, where he praised WWE's employees and shareholders for remaining calm during the situation. He said, quote, "The most important thing to us, John, the shareholders, everybody stayed calm. We knew there were some good folks in the pocket, and our employees, we have 1,000 employees worldwide, and we wanted to make sure they stayed calm too. They did, the shareholders as well. They made it a heck of a lot easier to keep everybody focused on the business, which is, as you know, at the end of the day, the most important thing." So I think we collectively got through that because of the good folks we work with, because of the strong shareholder base that we have. And hey, fortunately, we're on the other side of it. Since McMahon returned to the board, fans have speculated about McMahon potentially returning to creative in the company, and this is maybe the most interesting comments by Khan here. Khan was asked about how involved McMahon is in running the show, where he reiterated that Triple H is the head of creative in the company, and McMahon is not that involved. He said, quote, "Not that involved. Triple H, Paul Levesque, is the head of creative. He was named as the head of creative in August," Khan said. "Vince has respected that. He's embraced that. It's also his son-in-law, as I'm sure you know. So they have their own dynamic. And from my point of view, things have been terrific for the past couple of months since Vince returned." Now, again, interestingly, and a lot of people will pick up not that involved, implying he is somewhat involved, but not that involved. And it kind of echoes what Triple H had said to WWE Talent previously. Triple H had told WWE Talent after McMahon's return that he may have discussions with McMahon about creative, but assured that Triple H would be the one making the final decisions. According to Fightful, WWE representatives have vehemently denied that Vince McMahon is involved in creative. McMahon, of course, was backstage at WWE Monday Night Raw in Boston, Massachusetts on March 6th, with the story being that he was just there to visit John Cena. Reports did emerge that he was in the gorilla position all night, but was said to not have been involved in anything. Now, speaking of Vince being at television and Vince being around, an update has emerged on the Vince's office sign that still exists backstage at WWE tapings, revealing actually where the sign itself points to. During a recent report from Fightful Select about talent morale being affected by Vince McMahon return concerns, we spoke about this morning, Fightful noted that they've received almost weekly information about this backstage sign. The original report noted that the sign simply wasn't updated following Vince McMahon's departure in July 2022. Per a new update from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, this sign is now being used to point to a production/set design area. There are a lot of rumors swirling surrounding Vince McMahon, who some believe will return soon to creative, but as of right now, again, again, they're denying it's the case, with Nick Khan saying he's not that involved. Now, speaking of the creative as well, Nick Khan, not only is he saying that Vince McMahon is not that involved in creative, but he also says they've got months and months and months of creative already planned. Plans are laid out way in advance, according to Nick Khan. Of course, WWE is gearing up for its biggest show of the year, the two-night event known as WrestleMania. While WrestleMania is often referred to as the Super Bowl of wrestling, those in WWE have no off-season, and the moment WrestleMania ends, a new season begins with the Raw following that night. It's a night after. It's the Raw after WrestleMania. Speaking on The Herd with Colin Cowherd, WWE CEO Nick Khan said WWE employs 50 to 75 writers and producers to help with creative, which is led by Triple H and Bruce Pritchard. When asked how far in advance they had plans laid out for WrestleMania, Khan replied, quote, months in advance, months in advance. If you said now, where is the creative team of their process? They are months ahead of WrestleMania. Obviously, a huge focus on Saturday and Sunday to make sure we can execute what the plan is, but they're months ahead and they know that's the way it should be because 52 weeks a year, 3 to 4 programs a week. If you're not months ahead, you're going to get caught. Which again is somewhat ironic considering that used to not be the case, but according to Nick Khan, as of right now, they are months and months ahead when it comes to WWE creative. Now, Nick Khan has actually been a really influential factor in the relationship between WWE and Pat McAfee, and he's also given an update on McAfee as we get closer to WrestleMania. McAfee stepped away from his WWE SmackDown announcing duties in the fall of 2022 to join ESPN's College Game Day and was replaced by Wade Barrett. McAfee returned at the Royal Rumble to call the event alongside Michael Cole and Corey Graves, but hasn't been back in the mix since. Speaking to Andrew Marchand and John Urand of the Marchand and Urand Sports Media podcast, WWE CEO Nick Khan was asked if McAfee would be involved in WrestleMania 39. Quote, we have no plans to have him there this weekend. The world is his oyster. He's 36 years old. Look at his relevancy factor when you talk to young children. I have 2 young children. When I talk to them, it's often McAfee, McAfee, McAfee. That's what's in the wheelhouse for them. If you look at any of the traditional buyers, what do they want? They want a young, diverse audience. What does McAfee bring? A young, diverse audience. He doesn't get political to the extreme either way. He has Aaron Rodgers on, respectfully develops that relationship and becomes the go-home for Aaron Rodgers. You see that with more athletes than Pat. He's not looking to annihilate anybody or crucify them. He's looking to have good content, and his content has been terrific. He'll determine ultimately where he wants his home to be. Our hope is that he does more with us. And McAfee, of course, competed last year at WrestleMania 38, defeating Austin Theory before losing to Vince McMahon. Remember that match? I think it was the worst match of the year, wasn't it? As of right now, it's unknown when McAfee will return to WWE. He recently commented that his wrestling journey is not done, but when he makes his return to World Wrestling Entertainment, that's certainly up in the air. And just because Nick Khan said that he's not going to be there at the weekend doesn't necessarily mean that he won't be. Speaking of WrestleMania, we've got the first look at the WWE WrestleMania set and stage inside SoFi Stadium. You can see it on the screen right now. This year's show of shows will take place across April 1st and 2nd at California's SoFi Stadium. Leaked images have been doing the rounds on social media, giving fans a sneak peek at the presentation for the upcoming event. PW Insider recently reported that they were told that the stage has a Hollywood Awards look, with the staging featuring the black and gold color scheme of the WrestleMania Goes Hollywood logo. Shots from several angles have been shared of the stage in its current form, which does admittedly resemble sets from previous Academy Award ceremonies. WrestleMania 39, of course, will be headlined by the undisputed Universal Championship main event, with Royal Rumble winner Cody Rhodes set to challenge for Roman Reigns' gold. Obviously, at the moment, those pictures you can see on the stage, or on the screen rather right now, they're not finished and they are still in development, but it does sort of have that Academy Awards kind of feel, doesn't it, as well? Now, speaking of WrestleMania as well, it's brought in big sponsorship revenue. WWE Senior Vice President and Head of Global Sales and Partnerships, Craig Stimmel, told the Associated Press via ABC News that sponsorship revenue for WrestleMania 39 has doubled to more than $20 million, a record for any WWE event. In early February, it was reported that the sponsorship revenue was between $14 to $15 million. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Pepsi, Take-Two, and Mars/Snickers were named as WWE sponsors for the event. Stimmel said WWE will incorporate corporate brands into this year's WrestleMania in a multitude of ways, including a match sponsorship. We tried to find the perfect marriage of brand and story, Stimmel said. Cinnamon Toast Crunch and WWE announced Cinemojis will return in partnership for WrestleMania 39, with Rey Mysterio featured in the advertising as well. Of course, WWE has been trying to incorporate more sponsorships into their matches and creative for WWE television. We saw that at the Royal Rumble, with WWE having the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight at that event. As of right now, we don't have any official sponsorship match to be announced for WrestleMania, but we still have time between WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2, so that could happen, or we could still see some kind of integration ahead of the show. Now, not a lot of people know this, but prior to actually returning to WWE in an in-ring capacity, Edge was offered the opportunity to return to an in-ring career by All Elite Wrestling. And in a new interview, Edge discusses whether or not he would ever be open to a run outside of World Wrestling Entertainment. In a rather interesting chat with Sportsnet 590, Edge talks about not only his upcoming Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania 39, but also whether or not he could ever be tempted to join another company. More specifically, is there any allure for Edge in wrestling outside of WWE? Edge said, quote, "There was an opportunity to go elsewhere outside of WWE. Again, it's where I've spent my entire career outside of the indies, right? So this year will be my 25th year with WWE since my television debut. And having been there so long and understanding how it works and understanding just the machine that it is, there's something to be said for that. There's also something to be said for trying something new and exciting and a new set of faces, a new way of the way things work. I've always been a loyalist, though, in terms of that company. It's what I grew up watching. It's where I've always wanted to get to. What it boils down to, I guess, is where I think I can have the most fun, honestly. That's where I'm at in life. It's not like I'm grinding to get to WWE anymore. So I've been there and I've done it and I've done everything and then some. So now it's just a matter of what I enjoy the most. And I think that that's there. So you're saying there's still a chance, though, Edge? Maybe, maybe not. There have been some rumors possibly of an Edge and Christian reunion. Whether or not that'll be in WWE or AEW remains to be seen prior to both men retiring, but Edge seems pretty happy in WWE right now. Of course, a staple of WrestleMania weekend is the Hall of Fame ceremony, and we now know seemingly the final inductee into the Hall of Fame, and we're going to see the first ever referee inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So far, Rey Mysterio, Stacy Keibler, The Great Muta, Andy Kaufman are set to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and now we know the final inductee. On today's episode of WWE's The Bump, the winner of the 2023 Warrior Award, or rather the recipient, was revealed to be the late former WWE referee Tim White. White is the first referee to receive the honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. White refereed of the many iconic matches in company history, including the third man, being the third man in The Undertaker and Mankind's Hell in a Cell match at King of the Ring 1998. White spent decades refereeing for WWE before he was forced to retire due to a shoulder injury that he did actually suffer inside of a Hell in a Cell match. It was Chris Jericho versus Triple H at Judgment Day in 2002. White sadly passed away in July of last year at the age of 68. Of course, he's also very known for working backstage at WWE, in addition to being the person that sort of accompanied Andre the Giant on the road. He was kind of his handler, his confidant, and it's a really, really fantastic news to see a referee being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So really excited to have Tim White honored this weekend. Now, obviously, we now know who the host of the Hall of Fame is going to be as well. On Tuesday, WWE broadcaster Kayla Braxton revealed on Instagram that she will host the ceremony once again, saying, quote, so honored to once again be a host of the Hall of Fame ceremony taking place this Friday night in Los Angeles. She captioned her post before teasing that the Hall of Fame announcement was going to take place. Another Hall of Fame announcement was going to take place on the Bump. Braxton first co-hosted the induction ceremony in 2021 alongside Jerry the King Lawler and Corey Graves. Then last year in Dallas, Braxton and Graves handled the hosting duties. Lawler has hosted the event most times, with his longest solo stretch lasting from 2010 through 2018. It's unknown whether or not Lawler's going to be there this coming weekend for the Hall of Fame. Many hope he's going to induct Andy Kaufman, but of course Lawler suffered a stroke not that long ago, which he's still recovering from. Here's hoping he can attend, but we'll have to wait and see if we get any confirmation on it. Now, this is quite an interesting story because Ronda Rousey had recently expressed some frustration, and she took to Instagram to call out WWE Creative about her rivalry with Liv Morgan last year, saying, quote, "Imagine what our Liv Morgan feud could have been if we weren't hamstrung by a bunch of octogenarians who still think they know how to be hip while putting less than 5 minutes of thought a week into each woman's storyline." Now, more light has now been shed on Rousey and Morgan's potential issues with one of their matches. At Extreme Rules in October of last year, Rousey defeated Morgan to regain her SmackDown Women's Championship. Per Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, Rousey and Morgan both pitched for their bout to be edgier overall, with the duo wanting to utilize weapons that had historically been used in men's hardcore matches in the past, including thumbtacks. Meltzer noted that WWE officials turning their ideas down certainly left Rousey frustrated with the limitations their match was forced to observe. Rousey notably stated in October that she tried to pitch a thumbtack spot but was told that WWE stars cannot use them for their matches anymore. Maybe a thing because of blood, I don't know, but certainly she appears to be frustrated. And following Rousey's recent Instagram post, a new report had actually indicated that more WWE stars are frustrated with the creative ahead of WrestleMania, particularly in the women's division, with both title matches, the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship matches, feeling a bit lackluster as we head into WrestleMania this weekend. Now, one name that still doesn't have a role at WrestleMania just yet officially is LA Knight, and he has discussed the level of creative freedom he has when cutting promos on WWE television. Since reintroducing fans to his LA Knight persona, the former $1 million champion has established himself as one of the top talkers on the blue brand. Speaking on The Daily Show, Knight noted that he improvises most of his promos, stating that he usually just has a roadmap to structure his speeches. Quote, "One of the things I can remember saying at least a good 60 to 70% of the time before I walk through the curtain is, I don't know what I'm about to say when I go out there, but we're about to find out, and that's because I have a roadmap. I know where I'm going, I know how I'm going to start, I know how I'm going to finish, but in the middle, we're going to weave a road and we're going to figure out where we go, and hopefully it gets us to where we need to go." WWE is slightly more structured, but at the same time, it's like I do have the freedom to, again, where it's like, I know where I'm going, maybe there's a key point or two, but otherwise, hey, we'll see what we get when I come back. As I mentioned, as of recording right now, LA Knight does not have a WrestleMania match, but that could change in the few days prior to WrestleMania. Now, Roman Reigns, it feels like hits a new milestone every single day, but this one today, of all days, is pretty impressive, it must be said. Since Roman Reigns' return to WWE in August 2020, the Tribal Chief has been presented as one of the most dominant stars ever in WWE history. Reigns won the Universal Championship in his first match back at that year's Payback Premium Live event, and almost 2 years later unified the gold with the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 38 in April 2022. Many will actually struggle to remember when exactly Reigns suffered his last pinfall loss. Well, today, March 29, 2023, marks 1,200 days since Roman Reigns was last pinned in WWE. The Tribal Chief had last had his shoulders pinned down for a 3 count at the December 15, 2019 TLC Premium Live event, which saw Baron Corbin, of all people, defeat Reigns one-on-one. Now, Reigns has technically suffered losses since then, with his teammates taking the falls in tag team bouts. At WrestleMania 39, of course, Roman Reigns will defend his undisputed Universal Championship against Royal Rumble winner Cody Rhodes. Many are suggesting that Cody Rhodes will win and finish his story, but others are predicting that the Tribal Chief will retain his gold as his Universal title reign is almost at 1,000 days. As of March 29, Reigns has held the Universal title for 941 days, meaning they'd have to hold the gold until May 27 to pass the milestone. So who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it's not as cut and dry as people think it's going to be. Brock Lesnar faced off against Omos in a weigh-in this past Monday night on Raw, and scrap plans for the segment featuring Brock Lesnar and Omos on this week's edition of Raw have now been revealed. Ahead of the March 27 show, a weigh-in segment was advertised for the two heavyweights who are set to clash at WrestleMania 39. During the episode, Omos successfully weighed in, but as soon as Lesnar entered the ring, a brawl ensued. Per Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, there were initially pitches for the weigh-in to resemble more of a UFC presentation. It was noted that WWE WWE had a WrestleMania podium, a red carpet and towels to use for the segment. In a rare turn of events, Lesnar is being presented as the David against Omos's Goliath. On Raw, MVP claimed that Lesnar won't be able to suplex or F5 the 410-pounder. So, of course, those moments are to watch out for this coming weekend at WrestleMania. It must be said, though, the reason they didn't go with the UFC presentation is usually you only use the towels when you've literally got to strip down into nothing to make the weight, and that made no sense considering there's no weight limit in WWE, particularly for these matches, so it made little to no sense to do it that way. Finally, speaking of Raw, we have the ratings for this week's WrestleMania Go Home episode. This week's WWE Raw was viewed by an average of 1.843 million viewers on USA Network, according to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. The number is up considerably from the 1.771 million viewers the show garnered for the March 20 episode. The uptick in viewership also helped Raw finish number 1 in the cable top 150 charts, according to Showbuzz Daily, with the show ranking ahead of sports competition from the women's NCAA basketball on ESPN. Again, all of the hours did fairly well. As for year-over-year viewership figures, this week's Raw was down from last year's WrestleMania 38 Go Home episode on March 28, 2022. That show was viewed by an average of 1.979 million viewers. So actually, a bit of a difference really, over 100,000 viewers. Again, that could be due to a variety of factors, but what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Well, there you go, guys. This latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.